finishing up a lot of work on the way to a shoot, and if you're like me and tend to get a lot of work done on your daily commute, whether it's to work or back, then you want something that's like this. Spacious and comfortable that lets you do it in ease. But that's not all you want from your car. You want it to double up as the family wagon when you go out on your weekend getaways to the farmhouse. And of course, since you're making all that money and working so hard, you want it to spell luxury. Well, if all of that's what you're looking for, then the new GLS will be one of the probables on your list. So let's get under its skin and find out what it's all about. To begin with, it's clearly a facelifted version of the 4-year-old GL. The biggest area of change is the front, with a more contoured look that's in line with the newer lot of Mercs. A more rounded grille with the twin slats, the sweeping full LED and adaptive headlamps, and a more stylized bumper and bonnet change the look a bit. It's the same at the rear with the new full LED tail lamps and reprofiled bumper. But the essence and character are still very much the same. What is really new is the nomenclature that Mercedes have now given all their new SUVs. The S meaning this is the largest in their range. But it's not only just that. At over 5 meters long, it's also the largest SUV on sale in India. Which means here on the inside, it's a really spacious and comfortable place to be. As you can see, there's loads of legroom. The tallest of people will be comfortable over here. It's nice and wide. It's airy, the cabin with the panoramic sunroof, lots of glass areas. The seat bolsters you in nice and comfortably. So the middle row definitely gets a thumbs up from me. And of course, there is the third row as well, which I'll get to when we come to a standstill. Meanwhile, the middle row offers you all you need. The 12-volt charging point, the AC controls, vents at the top, side and center to ensure that you stay cool even in the scorching heat. There's also storage space for your phones and cup holders in the armrest. The seats recline too, and you can draw the shades to get really comfortable. Cruising along like this, the GLS really keeps you comfortable and you feel like you're gliding over the road. In comfort mode, it's fine as long as you're at an easy pace, but go quicker and it tends to be a little soft and springy on uneven surfaces or undulating roads. Sport mode tethers it down a little better. At low speeds, there is a bit of stiffness and you feel sharper road imperfections more than the smaller GLE. Still, the cabin keeps you well cocooned with the suspension working away silently and the overall insulation shutting the world outside. The new GLS's cabin too has been updated, but it's not as modern as its competitors. However, quality levels are still premium and there are new elements. There's a sportier 3-spoke steering, the instruments get a more detailed digital info display, and the top portion of the center console has also been revised. An 8-inch screen takes the pride of place on the dash now. The display does show everything in high-res clarity, and what the GLS also gets is Merc's latest command online infotainment system. The system lets you browse websites, tune into internet radio, and use preset apps by connecting via a synced phone's 3G or 4G network. You can even enter inputs via touchpad. And there's Apple CarPlay too. The center screen is also the display for the GLS's immensely useful 360-degree camera. And like others in the range, it also gets a park assist function that will find and automatically park the SUV into a suitably large spot. Now, most Indian buyers will be like me, sitting in the middle row and being chauffeured around, so maybe there'll be minimal use for that aid. However, when you do get behind the wheel, remember, parking this gargantuan mammoth is a huge task, so it will be a boon. Now, whilst I stop and take a look at the third row, you take a look at the feature list. Mercedes has also added 3-color and 5-stage adjustable ambient lighting to the package. A panoramic sunroof, electric fold for the third row of seats, and cooled or heated cup holders are some of the other features on board. Oh, and the GLS also gets dial for dynamic select that lets you choose between 5 driving modes: comfort, sport, slippery, off-road and individual, each with its own powertrain, steering and suspension setup. Well, now that we're at a standstill to check out that third row of seats like I said I would, but before I get in there, just to show you how massive the GLS actually is, look at where I'm standing. I mean, the seat is just halfway up me. It's huge, it's very high off the ground. So getting into the third row, not a single step tumble like we're used to in cars lower down the range. Still, access is easy enough. But once you're in here, what's surprising is the amount of room. For someone my size, even a long journey would be absolutely comfortable in this back seat. There's only one problem: you'll never find me sitting in the third row of a car. But that third row is surprisingly comfortable, considering that with all rows up, there still is a good amount of luggage space. And should you decide you want to take a smaller car along on the journey, I think you could fit a Nano in there with all the seats down. Jokes apart, it is truly huge. To power this mammoth is the 3-litre V6 diesel that maintains the 258 HP and 620 Nm of torque. But there's a new 9G-tronic gearbox that replaces the old 7-speed one. Now the gearbox has made a difference and the engine feels more responsive, it's overall quicker too, and for the most part it does the job well. Still, it isn't as effortless as a Q7 and you do feel like you are lugging a load around. Still, the GL is quicker by 0.7 seconds to the 100 mark, getting there in just 8.2 seconds, which is pretty respectable for something this size. Kick-down accelerations are also better than before. You can switch to sport mode to get the best out of the power plant. But the GLS is more happy cruising along. So as long as you don't push too hard, you will never lack for power. Now when you get into this car for the first time and sort of when you see it, you feel, oh my God, it's huge. How am I going to maneuver this? But even on narrower roads like this, strangely enough, I don't feel like it is so wide from behind the wheel, and I think it's the way the bonnet is shaped. It sort of draws you down to the center. So it doesn't feel imposing from behind the wheel, and what helps the feeling is the steering. Now the steering is light and easy, so it doesn't really let you feel the size of the GLS, but go around the corners and you definitely feel the size of this mammoth. It doesn't like to be hustled. So if you're looking for a sharp handling SUV, this is not it. This is an SUV more designed for comfort and leisurely driving. It does have all the electronics at hand to get over a fair bit of the rough stuff and ample ground clearance too. So taking it to the farmhouse will be a breeze as well. The GLS is just a facelift, and that shows because it doesn't feel quite as modern as the Audi Q7 or the Volvo XC90, which actually feel half a generation ahead of this car. But there's no denying it still has its strengths. Of course, there's that road presence. It's massive. There's the spacious cabin, and within that spacious cabin, it's USP, which is the comfortable third row of seats. Now, if you're a fan of the 3-pointed star, there's no cause for worry because the engine now feels better. And if you're looking for a comfortable, spacious luxury SUV, the GLS still does the job.